Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. You guys hear me?
Can hear you, can see you.
Okay,
Got
I've got major
the
problems.
new dark backdrop. Looking good.
Yeah, the office is coming together. The boxes are being unpacked. But excited to be live with everybody here because last week we had to pre-record, so we weren't able to talk about the week as it ends. But that was because Carlos was traveling and at a wholesaling event. So I'm really excited to kind of chat about that this week. So Carlos, how was wholesaling live?
It was really good. Good quality of event. The sponsors that put it on are HBHS out of San Antonio. They're pretty big influencer guys in the space. Last few years, met them originally in like 2019 at the wholesaling event in Houston. They do a lot of like subject to type deals, and they also have education and mastermind. But it was good from a sponsor perspective. They really treat their sponsors like royalty. Like they they had Zoom rooms and stuff like that, like beforehand, pretty much saying like, hey, if you're at this event, you need to buy these services from our sponsors, which we had a lot there, which there are a lot of good sponsors, which we'll talk about. And then just a cool event. One of the ones I sat in on was Brad Lee. If you guys are familiar with him, he's an entrepreneur that has I guess a video module training program called Lightspeed. Is kind of how he it's like it was sales training originally, but that's kind of how he blew up. He's not real estate specific, but on his show, he's interviewed a lot of wholesalers, which is cool. Kind of seeing those collabs and like guys like Ryan Pineda that are going into other areas outside of real estate. So he was the main keynote speaker. He probably made a good chunk of change. He probably got paid a good bit being at that event. I feel like some of those guys, like Gary Vee, I think got paid like $100,000 from the Max event that we were at a few years ago. So I'm sure Brad Lee made out pretty well. But it was an awesome event. Sold some Carrot memberships, got some investor fuse leads in the door, which is good. Have a few pending sales there. And overall, it was just a good event because at that event, that's the only one I know where there are people like they give you leads and you're like cold calling leads, essentially. So like you're learning and then you're actually like taking action. Eric Klein was a host too. I've heard Eric Klein's name the more the last like 2 months than I have ever had in my life. Is he? I was actually going to ask Pop P this. Is he like a cold calling coach or sales?
Sales. He started towards the beginning, mid-year. He really started going hard on his course, Mastermind, selling, cold caller. You know what I mean? Like last year, it kind of started low key for him, but he's really upped his branding and is really pushing selling that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, he was good. He was entertaining host, like introduced everybody. And then they had like people.
He hosted the whole weekend. Is that what you're saying?
He was like a co-host with Uncle Charles and Mike, Mr.
Interesting.
Hustle. Yeah, so they brought him in as a co-host. Like he was the guy that introduced everybody. Like when somebody would come on stage, like he was like introducing them, getting them riled up. There's also Pat Hilton. He's like another guy that does that. He's like made his name and met him a few times. He's like hilarious. He has really good posts and he does social media and stuff too. But overall, yeah, really, really good event. I would say 10 out of 10 chance that we're there again next year, which it definitely sounds like they're going to have another event. And a lot of good conversations, which we could dive into. Good customer avatar, good food, treated people well, good bonding with people there. So
how many days was it? 2 days?
It was 2 days, and then they had a mastermind for the 2 higher ticket levels, which was like we were in like a closed, almost like a classroom, which was cool too, because we were with like the people that paid for the 2 higher level tickets. So 3 days, 2 days for just general admission. And then the opening night there was like a little mixer event / like sponsor setting up. So we still rubbed elbows with a bunch of people. So it was pretty much 4 days for us that we were like boots on the ground, having belly to belly convos, which was cool.
Investor Lift was there.
Investor Lift was there. Got to chat with them. They had a massive banner with lights in it. I didn't ask, but their banner probably was at least like $5,000. Like they probably paid, I don't know, rough numbers, probably $5,000 to $10,000 just for.
Yeah. Is this banner like in the main room or?
So it's outside of the main room. So outside of the main room, it's almost like an L shape. Where am I at? Here we go. Like an L shape. So you could come in from this front entryway or you could walk around. And I guess when you walk around, we were like right outside the main entry, like where they want people coming in and out of most of the time is where we were right outside of that. Investor Lift, they had position. They were like the main sponsor. Like they probably paid as much as like 5 or 6 sponsors put together. Don't know exactly, but I'm assuming. So they had like a whole corner to themselves. And Robert was also in on some of the presentation stuff too. Like they gave away a house at the event. They ended up giving
Wait, what? Who gave away a house?
I guess Charles and Mike gave away a house.
What do you mean they gave away a house?
Like they bought a house and gave it to someone. Like I think
Who'd
they're
they give it
moving
to?
the dude. I don't know who. I can't remember the name. It was just
Was it like an investor or like a charity?
No, a person at the event.
So it was like a raffle, and you got a house.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
What? And then they also raffled off the top subscription of Investor Lift and some education. I don't know the specifics, but he got whatever the highest thing for Investor Lift is, and it's a 13-year-old kid who I met with. I had a meeting with his parents today. They should be signing up for Investor Fuse and Carrot as well. But yeah, this 13-year-old kid.
Could you imagine how pissed you would be as if like you were selling your house and you thought you were dealing with a grown person who has experience, and then you find out on Instagram that you sold it to a 13-year-old, and like you feel like, what the fuck?
Yeah. The parents have to drive them to the appointment.
Sign it,
They just wait outside. All right, honey, see how your seller lead appointment goes.
So is this kid already generating contracts? Like he's successful,
talk about catfish?
No, so he's in the business. So his parents are doing the business. They're using REI Reply, moving over to Investor Fuse most likely, and getting set up with like a cold calling dialer instead of kind of an all-in-one REI Reply. So he's going to be working with his parents, but he's going to be like talking to leads. I think he may have just started talking to leads, but that kid's going to be a beast. I mean, they have him reading like Ed Milet, The Power of One More. They intentionally are homeschooling him. So they can teach him all the stuff that they want to teach. He's like really advanced. One of the MMAs, either Muay Thai or something like that. He's like really experienced MMA fighting, which is cool.
Man,
this kid's going to be
phenomenal.
a beast.
Yeah, that's phenomenal to have a head. He's going to have a head start on life.
Yeah.
So the wholesaling live thing. I mean, how many contracts do you think were locked up there?
I don't know. The more stuff that they were talking about, and people are still working their leads. So what's cool too is they do Zoom. They're going to continue doing Zoom calls with the attendees. So they had like a training last night. So people that are getting calls back from these sellers, because obviously the leads that you talk, like first cold calling the leads, it's probably not very probable that the person's ready to go.
Yeah.
They did kind of do like a closers Olympic challenge on stage. There it was RJ Bates versus Nick Perry's good friend and one of his mentors, Brent Franklin, real $1 million closer. I wasn't even. I think I'd seen him in Instagram videos.
Have you ever like heard listened to him or heard his story?
Not until today. I don't know. It's not until today. Not until the weekend.
Is he the guy that's now in oil and gas?
He was at Chris Rude's thing. His personality. I know a buddy who's got like same exact personality. The lifestyle that guy lives, and like his story is amazing, like just balls to the wall type shit, very risk taking type of person, very intelligent, like very able, and when I say intelligent, I mean like problem solving, being able to figure out something that's complicated and breaking it down into its simple moving parts and then being able to find a way to capitalize on it. Not a lot of people have that type of intelligence. You can be book smart, you can have a high IQ, but if you don't know how to break something down into its moving parts and then how to like make money off of it, I mean, that's basically all business breaks down to. Right. But like he told some stories, like, and it's like, I don't know if you've ever read the book back in the day, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, where the guy... Is
that Tucker Max?
Yeah, Tucker Max told all of his stories of like dating and just his drunken escapades. Take that, swing it with business and like real estate and just money-making escapades, and then like listen to this guy tell his stories, and I was just like, bro, this shit is fucking wild, dude. Like,
but overall, you resonate with his
I mean,
his vibe.
I don't personally know him, but like just listening to him, you could tell he's got the experience, and like, you know, you get that instant respect before you really know. I don't know the guy personally, but like just listening to him, I'm like, okay, this guy's been through some shit. He's made it out the other side. He knows what he's doing. He's got a good he's got a good philosophy. It's basically he buys unused wells or like wells that old people. He goes direct to seller on wells that he feels he could still get, taps into and get oil from. I don't know the details. He has a lot of technology and a lot of people on his team that figure this stuff out. Raises funds to do it. The cash flow is pretty good. Him and Nick do stuff together. I know he raised I think he's on his second fund doing it. I follow him on Instagram after I met him at that event, and I'm just like, this dude's,
Yeah,
he's doing shit.
he seems like a guy for sure.
But the whole purpose of it, like at the event, was like there's other ways to apply your wholesaling skills into something that is of a higher value. So if you know Alex Ottewell over out of Tampa, we message each other on Instagram because I'm into mobile home parks, and he called himself the trailer park king or the mobile home king, trailer king of trailers, I think was his handle. And he was like, I'm still the original one. And I'm like, yeah, bro, but now you're in like oil and gas. But he got into that. He went and visited Brent, shut down his whole wholesaling operation. I'm probably lying about this, but I think it was at the beginning of the year, maybe. And then
this year?
Yeah, like in the beginning, I think it was maybe December or something. I forget, but like he went, visited Brent, I guess, got the pitch, figured out what he was doing, and was like, yeah, I want to do this too. So I think he hired him as a mentor. I don't really know the details, but now he shut his whole wholesaling operation down. I think he transitioned his acquisition guys into finding wells. But I mean, he's very open about how much money he spends. Like, spent a shit ton of money on the software and the training and hiring engineers, and he looks, I mean, I haven't specifically asked him pointed questions, but if social media is an indication, he has bought he's bought a lot of wells that are cash flowing. I don't know his splits or how he does it in his fund or anything like that, but you can, you know what I mean? It just proves like you could change that skill. So then Brent coming to Wholesaling Live using the same closer skills to take a house down is no different than I can imagine than trying to convince a seller to sell their well to you.
Right.
Sell your land with your mineral
Brent, right. Has he had real estate experience? Was he a wholesaler? Okay.
He's had it. I'm not going to say, and I'm trying to remember because it was 2 years ago. Not specific wholesaling, but he did it all. Like, he did some house stuff, flip stuff, real estate stuff. He was land care, like, bro, he had like all these businesses he started. And then I don't know how, I forget the story of how he found this, but I mean, obviously I'm not the one to tell his story, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if like he hadn't done real estate at all. Because I mean, that is the thing though, with what I understand from that process and what I've seen, it is, involves real estate. You got to find somebody that's got some land. You got to be able to
it's the same type of concept. Like, so he uses it instead of PropStream. I don't know the name of the software, but he showed it at the event. He uses blank instead of county record data to find the room counts and all this. He uses some geology. So I'm probably fucking this up, but some geology site that shows like oil reserve shit that should be in there. And like, so it's the same, and then he's calling them and he's doing that same process. I mean, we would have to bring one of them on to really discuss this because I am not anywhere near qualified to have this conversation.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like the skills you learn running your own wholesaling business or even being in a wholesaling business, certainly applies to a lot of other, kind of industries and verticals and things you can do with those skills.
I feel as if no one really, like, if I ever got up on stage, I feel like one of the things I would want to say to the crowd is like, this ain't it, bro. Like, this ain't it. Like, most of you are going to fail, right? Few of you are going to really succeed. And even still, it's a high paying job. You got to go into something else. But what I do believe is wholesaling is the easiest way to make your bones in business and to really raked over the coals in just figuring out hiring, firing, sales, marketing, accounting, hiring bookkeepers and CPAs. Consistency and looking at marketing as an investment and not an expense and all those things. And it really trains you well for then going into something else. Like, wholesaling should not be, I'm a firm believer wholesaling should not be your life, just like being a realtor shouldn't. But like I was telling John the other day, I was joking, I think, what was it, like a week or so ago, like I was like mobile home parks and they were talking about like the software and the dialers they're using, and they're all using Grasshopper because a lot of these guys come from, I was in corporate America.
Right.
I worked at a retail space. I was in insurance. I was in something, and I just got sick of my 9 to 5. So I jumped into finding mobile home parks. A lot of them don't know how to hire VAs and set up cold calling. Most of them, I mean, following the Facebook groups, they don't know CRMs or what software to use or how to hire contractors or how to hire. And it's like me coming into it, I'm just like, bro, this is all easy. Like, I'll have my same VA run my data. I'll pull my same stuff. I'll throw it into the same database. I'll use my same skip tracing company. I got my dialer set up. I'll throw the data in. I got my same script. Like, it's all plug and play for a different asset class. Yeah, I feel like it's an easy way. And Brent obviously, and he could come onto a stage and outclose a closer that specifically excels at wholesaling because of his general salesmanship skills. I think that's pretty impressive.
Oh, he did win. Brent won.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. That's what I saw Nick Perry post. So Nick Perry was there as well. So apparently, Brent Franklin won, and they took the investor machine booth because they had already rolled out. So if they post social media stuff, I want to go back and see, because me and Brady were putting up like carrot stuff in the backdrop of Brent like sending a DocuSign contract out. But he apparently got 2 deals under contract there. What's interesting with Brent, though, I 100% agree, and that reminds us, we always come back to the Eric Brewer persona where we kind of say like wholesaling is it's almost like a community college or a college. Like you learn like your business 101, your business admin, your marketing, 100%. Your sales. Then you can kind of like, ideally you dive into something else. And not taking anything away from
No.
I'm proud. Shout out Hartford Community College Owls.
Oh, it's not even that. You're not taking anything.
It's just a good analogy.
Wholesaler. Yeah.
Exactly. And Brandon, John, and I aren't taking anything from being a wholesaler. It's all how we.
It's just
cut our teeth in
stepping stones to it, and like, I think Max Maxwell put it the best. He was like, I saw his post. He goes, "Imagine if 5 years or 7 years later, I was still just wholesaling."
Yeah.
He goes, "You would basically call me just a coach at this point." And because people are like, "Why don't you do this anymore?" Like, bro, like, I'm not living at your level. Like, I have other things to do. And like, coaching is a great thing, but I also equate that to a high paying job. I feel like if you died, name a coaching program that would still go on. Like, obviously people are going to come at me with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad would be one of the very few. I mean, Kiyosaki sold the rights to his training program. It's owned by somebody else.
I'm about to say, it's like, he isn't dead though. I'm confused.
No, but I'm saying he was able to sell the rights. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would say there's one in a few that would do that have that ability. Most of these people, if you just stop today, and same thing, like, if I stopped wholesaling, would I be a good wholesale coach? Like, would you really want to hire me? Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I believe
the thing that happens with there is how long you're away from actually doing it in your business. So there's certain traits about you. Yeah, you would be a great coach. But one of the variables or one of the ingredients that goes into that recipe, if you're a good coach or not, is how removed you are from actually doing it on the day-to-day business.
That's 100%. And like, so those were some things I really took into account when I was figuring out where I wanted to go into, because I was talking to that guy. So Chasen, right? He signed up with InvestorFuse. Did you do his onboarding yesterday? He's a good guy.
They did. Mike had an onboarding call with him. Yeah.
So like, I was talking to him and I was just explaining, because he was asking me about what I do. And I was like, bro, like, wholesaling, it's a high paying job and you could get addicted to the money. And at some point, it's not easy, but you just shut it down or you slow it down. But like, at a certain point, like,
tire from the game.
Yeah, it was one thing with being a realtor. I always said to myself, and I was like, I saw these old realtors, and like my ex-partner, he was like 50 something, and like he was overweight, and like he was good at what he did, but like he was still showing homes. And I'm like 28, 29, and like I look around the office and there's like some old ladies, and one of my buddies is telling me stories about these agents back when they're in their 20s, because he knew them, right? He's an old school flipper. He's telling me like these stories of these agents, and I'm thinking to myself, like,
why?
Is that what I want to be? So that was my transition into full-time investing and being done with being an agent, is when I realized, like, I don't want to be 50 and having to like call someone, are you going to show up to this viewing? Like, yeah, you want me to show you 6 homes on a Sunday because you have off of work? Like, I don't want to do that. And then the same thing happened in wholesaling. Do you really want to be on the phone with sellers or training salespeople and like training
Right.
cold call teams? Is that what you want every day of your life when you're 55, 60? If it's not, you need to think about what it is to do. But those skills are easily, I feel, transferable into so many things. And if you can figure that out, there is no shame in figuring out what the next step is, because wholesaling is freshman year of fucking high school, bro.
100%.
It's like, it's just, you're in there. And it's cool being like, what is Matthew McConaughey from Days to Confused, when he's like, I keep getting older, but they keep staying the same age. And he's talking about like high school girls because he's old, he graduated, he's hanging around the high school kids, and it's like, it was an old 70s movie or about.
Is that a good movie? I just started his autobiography yesterday.
Bro, it was. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. It's
I'll
hilarious.
put that on there.
There's no shame in hanging around.
Is that where All Right, comes from?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that was his first big movie, like first big
huge
screen time.
Yeah,
his autobiography is phenomenal. I did it on the audiobook.
I'm ripping through.
Highly recommend.
Just the style of what it is, and I always love that stuff too. Similar with like Marcus Aurelius Meditations, where it's essentially just a life journal. He's the same way. He's like, all right, I'm just going to go off somewhere and read my journal. So very much up my vibe. So much so, I recently saw that even Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi reached out to him, and they're like, hey, we want to take some of this green lights concept and put it into our coaching. Did you guys see that? Have you seen this? Have you read this? So yeah, it's resonating. That was my Jay Leno. It's resonating with even people like that, like Tony Robbins. So I'm super excited. I'm maybe like 30, 40 pages. I just got into part 2 actually this morning in my morning reading session of like pick your frequency or match your frequency. But yeah, I'll have to watch that. True Detective with Matthew McConaughey is really good. All the stuff with him is really good. I want to go back to one point really quick with Brent Franklin for the wholesaling live. So we're talking about wholesaling. We're all in agreement that that's great for like either learning other business. Like a lot of people learn like single family wholesaling and then they get more into like rentals or lending money or mobile home parks. But with Brent, it's funny because he went against RJ Bates. I also have a point here written down about RJ Bates I want to bring up. But Brent, what he was saying afterwards, or like he was next to the carrot booth with me and Brady after they were on stage. So he was essentially like on somebody's computer, like sending a DocuSign to this person to sign and like walking them through it on the phone. The thing that he kept saying after of what made him impressive and like the winner of the close, not the Closers Olympics, but the closing challenge they had at this event is that he said he's never cold called for real estate. He's like, I've never done this. He's like this. And that's what Pop P was saying. It speaks to his salesmanship. And he was so good. What he was breaking down to me, like when he was sitting there, because they need to work on like the audio a little bit the next time they do it, because they had people talking like on stage, like saying the leads came from Lead Zolo and stuff like that, and REI Call Center, trying to get them exposure to their sponsors, which is good. But they really just need to be quiet up there and just let people, like just let them be on the calls, because that part could be improved. But Brent Franklin was calling these people, and he said what he was saying is like, hey, my name is Brent. He did his opening speech or whatever. He's like, look, he's like, I got to buy 3 more properties today. That's what I have cash for. He goes, it doesn't make sense for me to come to the property unless it's signed. If that's not the case, like if you want to take another week or 2 to talk about it or shop my offer, like I'm not your buyer. We can end this call right now. That's cool. But I will buy it today for this price, and I need you to sign it like right now. He is just his salesmanship and his conviction, his own stuff.
That's also very RJ
Jesus.
Bates style. Like RJ Bates is very like, he'll get on the phone and be like, okay, you want to sell your house? Okay, what's your price? Fuck you, I'm out of here. Or okay, now we could talk. We're on the same page. And he's defended his style numerous times, and I like it compared to the Steve Trangs, like aw shucks, like, you know, where he really goes empathetic and guilt trips them and tries to get committal that way. There's so many different styles, but if you do that, you have to have the bravado, the tonality. You have to be able to match it up. You can't say that and then be nervous that they're going to say, no, I want to shop your offer, and then backpedal on it to try to keep them on the phone, because then you lose all respect. Like, you have to own it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fascinating and really salesmanship 100% to a T. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
RJ Bates was similar as well. I guess there were some changes, and Brent Franklin was also mentioning, like, he was like, oh, we just lost John. RJ Bates was also, or Brent Franklin was also mentioning, like, when he was telling us that he's never cold called before, he's like, I never cold called real estate leads. He's like, I've done like 6-figure deals. Like I think he said he's done like 200, 300K deals without cold calling. An interesting thing he said in the booth too is like he would make he made a Facebook group, like he made a massive Facebook group of like giveaways. Like it was saying like, hey, follow this page, we'll give away something or whatever. And then he had all these people in there, and then he just changed it to like a real estate acquisition group. Like just change it to like, hey, sell us your house or sell us a referral, we'll send you money. And apparently he got a ton of leads that way. So he's just very like.
That's what I'm saying. So that was without knowing him or ever really talking to him other than a passing by at an event.
Yeah.
Like that was the vibe I got, is like his brain, he could break stuff down, figure out how to make money. I mean, and that's just a skill set, man. It's just a skill set very few people have. If you're knowledgeable about how to utilize that skill set, you can really turn it into a lot of money. But that's the thing, man. The oil and gas stuff is quite interesting. Like I feel like there's definitely something there. I don't know, but some good money. But that's also going on the same thing, like mobile home parks, how I transitioned into that. And then like even still, I feel like there's something else that I could transition, because that's like being turnaround. Like you have to turn around. A mobile home park is like a business. You got employees, you have like the capitalization of the income, the way you value a mobile home park, it's true, like fixing an operation of a business and then going to sell it at a new capitalization rate. And I feel like there'd be something else involved. But once you learn these certain skill sets, like there's stepping stones to it. And I think wholesaling is great. And that's why people become a realtor. Like, yeah, becoming a realtor is good, but like step up. What's the next step after that? Being a flipper is good. What's the next step after that? Do you really want to be flipping homes for the rest of your life as a main source of income? Like, is that what you want?
Yeah, fascinating points. But yeah, that dude and RJ Bates too, because RJ is very similar. Just the level of salesmanship and moxie that they have. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And when you see him on social media, like Brent, I've only seen a few times on social media just from Nick, but then see him in person, it's just like they are really just at like a different mental frequency. The another cool point that you'd appreciate, and RJ Bates made a post on it, but the Army football team was playing against like UT San Antonio that weekend. So the Army football team was staying at the hotel, and they had the conference rooms like right next to the event. So there'd be rooms right next to us, and it was like a picture of like Army football players, and it was like defensive team meeting. Then the next room was like special teams meeting, and then offense meeting. The head coach, RJ met, and he was saying some similar things of like when somebody meets Tony Robbins, like shakes your hand like really directly, is like looking you eye to eye, and is so locked in and present on the conversation, like literally nothing is passing them by. They're locked at. But the main takeaway is the amount of focus that he had on like his North Star / like his identity. Every conversation that he had, he left it saying beat Navy. Like that's like their sole like purpose. I feel like it's almost like when who did Arnold Schwarzenegger marry? Like into what family? We were talking about that episode before.
Bro, you asked me that as if I'm supposed to know.
But we were talking about that. The Kennedys. When the Kennedys, they go, oh, what's your favorite? They ask one of the Kennedys, what's your favorite color? And they go, our favorite color is red. Like just so unified in their beliefs and their values. That's how the Army football coach was. Like every single conversation he has, he ends it by saying beat Navy. What I'm saying is it's interesting just seeing someone that just knows their North Star and like has a central focus.
Arnold Schwarzenegger married Maria Shriver, so I don't know how you got the Kennedys from that, but
I think she's a Kennedy or somewhere linked to them. Do a little Google if you're on there. But yeah, that was cool. So yeah, I mean.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Eunice Kennedy Shriver.
Yeah. So it's interesting just being, hanging out with all those people, and like I was telling Brady, like it's kind of refreshing, like in your day-to-day life, like you have your family and like I'll see random friends around here, but you're hanging out with civilians for the most part. Then you go to an event and it's just 4 days straight of
you're just hanging around just real estate people. You know, and that's the thing is like when you start doing that, it really starts to rub off. I believe in it changes your identity. It's a whole
Definitely.
difference of identity of who you think you are, which is, and listen, you can get that from watching YouTube. You can get that from hopping on Zooms. Like you could get that from a lot of stuff. It's just, it's kind of like an injection, like a sugar rush when you go to these things, and like you just immediately get hyped up on it, and you just have to be able to carry it back into your daily life, which is why like being a part of masterminds like that do weekly or bi-weekly Zoom calls, like I mean, that's like I was telling you, like I met that guy that was signing up for Investor Fuse. He was talking about in the Novation call with Eric Brewer. I've just been joining in on those, just listening to people's pitches and stuff, and it's always giving me ideas, and it's great to be a part of that. And then I hopped on a call with that guy because I was like, bro, like he had questions about how, because he wasn't signed up yet. He's like, well, how, I don't know how Investor Fuse is going to handle my follow-up. So I was like, bro, I was like, I've been on Investor Fuse for years, dude. You want to hop on a call after this? Like, I'll show you my system, and I can tell you like what you could do for follow-ups inside Investor Fuse. And we started chit chat, but like just talking to somebody else again that's doing something similar or trying to do something similar again could re-jazz you up about something and really get that identity going, like refocus you. And that's why I'm looking for more. I put a post out there. I was trying to figure out like next year I got to join another one. Like
Mastermind?
Yeah, like something that's not just about traveling. Like traveling is a little tough for me with right now. Like maybe as the kids get a little older, I'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
But like just with the bi-weekly and weekly Zoom meetings and stuff, like I feel like that's a great way to stay in touch and listening to what other people are doing, because things are changing. Like
yeah, I agree.
You got to be a part of that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you for getting that locked in with Chance.
Oh yeah, I didn't do anything. I was just showing him how like I was set up, and I was explaining to him about like my follow-up situation of like how I do stuff and how like yeah, it's paid off for me now with like the SMS crackdowns and stuff. I don't do cold texting. It's all phone calls and then maybe like a text or a voicemail as I'm calling them, but they've already talked to me. So it's a lot different than doing a sequence. And so I was showing, because I'm a very manual person. So I was showing him how my manual process works for follow-up inside our system, awesome. Tying into smartphone, obviously, and everything. But I don't know.
Yeah, man, the accountability, and because you think about the high-level masterminds, they charge relatively a lot of money.
Yeah, what do they charge?
If you break it down, 25, 30 grand a year.
Yeah, like I feel like Collective Genius is like 25, 30K. Boardroom's probably 25, 30K. Someone mentioned Boardroom. I haven't read the chat yet, but we were chatting back and forth about Boardroom. I don't know how much it is, but I'm sure it's probably in the 20s to 30. But then you have like your other ones, right? Like you have your 10 to 20 ones, which is more of a community-based mastermind, not so much about the trips itself, but you're getting more, it's more training specified. So I guess if we were creating a graph, right, like, and then below that you would have your probably 2K to 10K, which is just training. You're probably not getting a lot of like ongoing, you know what I mean, weekly or monthly calls or anything like that, where you're really talking about your business. You're probably paying 5K or 7K or whatever, and probably getting a course, maybe hopping on once a week or once a month to specifically talk about that. Process, training, advertising, whatever that training is. And then when you step up to that 10 to 20K, it's a little bit different. It's like the training program with the weekly masterminds. And then when you're in the 20 to 30, it has nothing to do with any specific marketing or advertising or skill. It has to do with your business and getting your business up to par or whatever you would say. So you step in that. Yeah. I don't think I've ever really broken it down in that way until now. But yeah, if you kind of think about that, that's kind of right. Like the price categories of things. Yeah. So you get to pick and you could start at the low one and get that skill set, make some money, step up into, and a lot of the 10 to 20 ones are usually just individual gurus. And I'm not knocking it. Like, you got like Nick Perry and all them, and they have a great thing, but they do the weekly meetups. You're getting the training and then the ongoing coaching and the community around it. And then the 20K. And the only two I could think of are Collective Genius and Boardroom. Are there others? I don't know.
Yeah, Investor Fuel. A layer below that would be like a Wholesaling Inc., which I don't know how much they've changed.
But I'm sure that's like events. And that's like Pace Morbies is in that 10 to 20K range and there's a lower one in the 7, I think 7, 8K. But like what you get, but you're not going Pace Morby, although he travels, you're not saying every quarter I'm meeting up in Hawaii. Like Collective Genius, because I follow like a couple of the guys in it, and they're like, and Tyler's in it, and it's like, bro, this month we're in Tampa, now they're in San Diego, then they're in Hawaii, then they're in Aspen, and it's like,
Yeah, that's the two they rotate. The last couple of years, they just go Tampa and San Diego.
yeah, and like, well, you're paying $30K to get in there, and like that's a lot different than just a Wholesaling Inc. or a Pace Morby or a Nick Perry's type of thing, where it's a lot of just the virtual meetup and the training around their skill.
Right. And think about this, because the retention is pretty high. I don't know exact numbers. I don't know who would besides the owners of there, but imagine the retention. So let's look at like the lifetime value. Say you're in Collective Genius for 8 years, which there are definitely some people that have been. Let's say 8 times 25,000, 200 grand invested in that. They're not staying in that unless they're, at least they
unless
feel
you're
the
getting
perceived
something.
value is
And
there.
and
So
I
it's
think
there.
you're short on the money, because think about it, every quarter I'm dropping at least 5 G's to travel.
Oh, at least, yeah.
At
You might
least.
bring your wife and kids.
Yeah.
And
And
a lot
make
of
a
people bring their
vacation
wife.
out of it.
Yeah,
So
they
you
make a
get up to
vacation.
another 10 every quarter. That's another 40K a year just on trips. Like, and that's where I think it's important, like, because you're not focusing, again, like Nick Perry's is PPC and sales and just like the dispo, and Wholesaling Inc. is the whole wholesaling. Sub 2 is about the creative and all that. Collective Genius and Boardroom, from what people are telling me after I posted that yesterday, because I had a bunch of people chiming in, it has nothing to do with that, and has everything to do with your business in general, and like the actual growth of your business and all those in between things. What marketing they're doing, what processes are they doing. But I mean, I think that'd be worth it. I'm not a part of any of those, but maybe that's what I do next year. I don't know.
Definitely. And I think it's part of what we were saying before, kind of like the pulse. Like you're kind of the closest to the pulse of the industry when it's like you're with other people that are so bought in that's, the 200K, 300K investment over 8 to 10 years is more than well worth it. So you're kind of finding stuff out earlier.
Yeah.
Like that's like the last event that we hosted was in 2019. And in Austin, was it 28? It was 2018 or 2019. And that's when they first rolled out Lead Sherpa. So we had one of the first Lead Sherpa users there, and that was like their big presentation. Joe Terrio in the Northeast there, like Boston, New Hampshire area.
I remember those days, dude, when SMS just rolled out.
Dude, and people just killed it. But like,
I remember crushing it on SMS.
Oh, dude, yeah, people absolutely just made a killing. And at that event, it was like one person on Lead Sherpa. Pretty much everybody else at our Investor Fuse Mastermind signed up for Lead Sherpa. And that year of 2018/2019, people just like killed it.
Yeah, I was on like at the time. Yeah.
But like, imagine, like, say you had found out, like, is it not worth and our ticket was cheaper than that. It was a one-time event, but whatever it is to get in that room where you find out that pulse / like almost insider information
to get in that. So I was one of the other things. So for my syndication for my mobile home parks, I use syndication attorneys down here out of Florida. She's great, and then she hosts like a weekly mastermind that anybody, like, I'm not paying for it. I pay her an exorbitant amount of money to do my syndication. Well worth it. Definitely worth the value. But then she's like, now my clients, my past clients, current clients, all hop on a mastermind, and every week, like, we go through stuff. And I've learned a lot just hopping on the few that I've done. My elevator pitch, I've listened to how other people are structuring their syndications and like what type of returns. And that has given me a lot of ideas. And I had a meeting with my attorney today for our new park, and she was explaining stuff that I didn't know. But like, even that, by paying those people and then participating in those things that they offer, like that was one of the things that helped me pick this attorney. Not only like did I like what they were offering in general, but then I was like, man, they have like a podcast and they have like a weekly mastermind meetup. I could get value out of that because I'm kind of new to this. And that was one of the reasons, because I felt like if I was spending that much money, I wanted more than just paperwork. You know what I mean? I wanted some type of value return. So like, that's definitely, and there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't know if I didn't go to that.
Yeah.
So like, I perfected my elevator pitch, dude. Like I didn't have the first one I gave like was horrible because they make you go live and do it. And then I was like, this is embarrassing. And then I listened, and then I perfected it. And I'm like, wow, like I would have never come up with that on my own.
Yeah.
and I couldn't talk to you about it or another wholesaler about it. I would need to talk to a syndicator who does that. And like, so being a part of that group has helped.
And that goes back to what you're thinking. You're like, man, not, the next, where you'd want to do after what you're doing now, which is like acquisitions for mobile home and turning them, and then property management and stuff like that. Maybe you're syndicating, maybe you're lending money,
And it's funny because like I used to do property management for other people. Like when I worked with the hedge funds, I did property placement, not management. And then individually at Remax, I did some property management for some clients. And like that helped me learn the contracts, the tenant rules, like when I was an REO agent, kicking people out, evictions, all that stuff. And it's like that skill helped me now in the mobile home parks because now property management, I know what's needed. I've done it. I could teach people in my office. So there's definitely stepping stones to it, but what is that next step for me? I'm not 100% sure yet with like masterminds. That's why I was asking the question. A lot of people said Collective Genius, Boardroom. Those are the two big ones those are the only two actually I've been told that I needed to join. And I told you I was looking at Nick Perry's thing. I was interested in that too, for the PPC aspect. So
for sure. And it's interesting. Those seem to have like fractional breakouts as well. At least like where they'll have like you can go into like a commercial section or like there's a wholesaling section or like multifamily.
Oh yeah. So that's what somebody was saying. There's more than just wholesalers, which I didn't know. I thought it was just basically big ass wholesalers.
And what's like Tim Bratz and like Mark Evans has some too.
Bro, so Tim Bratz I joined. I'm not in it anymore, and not because it's not worth it, but just when we were buying our park, money was a thing, and like we just weren't in it anymore. But Commercial Empire or Legacy Wealth, that was how like being in there, that's how I learned how to structure my first mobile home park stuff and do my management. I was looking at third-party management, was doing the weekly calls, brought up a question, coached by them about like how to do it. They helped me understanding like the different aspects of where the money goes, the maintenance stuff. Like, I mean, they were instrumental in giving me the confidence in buying a park, even though they're in the apartments stuff. That knowledge still kind of, and I look back and I'm like, dude, I am so glad I listened to them. And I did not hire a third party manager, because knowing what I know now in this space, horror stories. Like I would have epically failed my investors.
Yeah. It's it's interesting connecting the dots backwards like that. And it's like, man, you could have guessed right. Like
I could have
off like your intuition, but like it's a roll of the dice. And then when whatever you pay and you get that insight, you're like, man, I'm glad that I had that.
Yeah. 100%.
Like little time. Like I didn't have to go do this for 2 years and be like, oh, I should have self-managed.
No, 100%, dude. Like I'll give them credit all day. Anytime someone asks me about like why I do it the way I set it up, it's like, bro, Commercial Empire, dude. I'm saying that wrong. Legacy Wealth, but that mastermind, like that was it. It wasn't Tim Bratz, it was his team. I forget, because every day is a different section. He had a legal day. Like their legal guy gets up. I asked him questions, which is how I'm pretty sure that's how I backed into my actual attorney. So like all of it was linked, to these different groups that I've been a part of over the years.
Yeah, dude. It's good to get in those, man. It's really good. Mark Evans has one too. I don't know what it is, like DM Family.
Oh, Mark Evans. Yeah.
So he wrote like the foreword for Tim Bratz's book, or the other way around. But
I don't know what it's about, but I've seen it. Like I don't know. And you got but you have a lot of these other ones that are just general men or business entrepreneur groups.
Yeah.
That like are more about the networking thing than it is the coaching and the training. Like to me, Collective Genius is about the coaching and the training around your real estate or investing business. Whereas then you have like Sean Whalen's like Lions Not Shit, the Sheep Lions Den, and then you have
I know
Mark
the guy.
Evans,
I don't know his mastermind.
And you have those, and those are just general entrepreneur things, but I think it's more mindset than it is specific. Like, let's go in a room and talk about like, here's how I structure my business. Let's talk about your business. Yeah. I get that vibe when I think of Collective Genius, not when I think about those ones.
Yeah, and Collective Genius and probably Boardroom. I don't know Boardroom for sure, but that's almost like the traditional like. Every event is pretty similar. Like you're going to have a hot seat presentation where you break down your business in front of people, and then you're just getting feedback specific on your business. Yeah. I think that's like Collective Genius and Boardroom, and you have shared resources. Like everybody has a shared Google Drive where you share like everything from like SOPs to marketing to whatever. You're like an open book. The Mark Evans ones are interesting, and I forget what year I said it, but it was my favorite podcast of one year, either like 2020 or 2021. And I was when I was living in Baltimore at the time. I remember that, and his mastermind almost seems more of like a mind opening for like abundance and wealth
Yeah,
building.
yeah, and
Like you
that's
join
important
that,
too. And that's
yeah,
important too.
yeah,
So there's a
100%.
lot you can join. I'm looking for one for, and maybe Collective Genius might be it. Like, because I was watching one of their ads and it was about like they have syndicators and stuff in there. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking for one that caters to syndication, raising money, and maybe even just mobile home parks, as well as one like for PPC and just general wholesaling. Because I look at wholesaling like more as sales marketing, and I need that as I
Mm-hmm.
go into the park. So I'm trying to like find maybe two that do that and talk about joining them next year. Um, I don't know. So I just got to get my third park now, bro. I told you we got our second one. Got that sign, bro. It is. I go out to it. I don't know much about it, to be honest. Like it's truly it's an on market deal, but off market. So
How so?
it's with an agent. It's hard to describe because like in the commercial world, like you know how there's websites that commercial agents use to push out deals, and everybody combs those things. If it sits there, there's a reason why there's hair on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you hire an actual commercial agent, you would get to that, right? They hired what seems to me like when I'm talking to him, like a regular agent. It's not listed anywhere. I found it on an offbeat mobile home park website. It was in my database. I had been trying to call them because it's around my park. So I had been trying to call them directly, didn't get a hold of it, recognized it on this offbeat website, called the agent and started going through him and going back and forth and back and forth. And that's how. So that's what I mean by off market, on market. Like it's with an agent, but it's not on all of the main. It is such a deal that if it was on one of those sites, it would have been gone in like a fucking day.
Yeah,
Um,
there's something going wrong with it. That
yeah, it's completely mismanaged.
yeah.
The mom and dad have, I'm sorry to say, but like, their health is poor and the kids have
Mm-hmm.
to send them somewhere to full-time care and they need the money for that and the park has gone downhill. So with that, that means somebody like me, I have no documents. There's no information for me. Like when you get stuff that's on market or like even direct to seller with someone who's running their park, and I've done both, you get just a plethora, anything you need. Like, okay, here's like my P&Ls, here's my expense
Mm-hmm.
report, here's my tax returns, here's the lot numbers, here's the names, here's everything. With this, it's like, I don't know, like my dad doesn't know, like his brother died who started the park. Like, this is what I got. And I got like 4
Mm-hmm.
sheets of paper with like, it was like 8 or 9 columns in an Excel sheet. And like, that was it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I told my wife, I was like, I know it's a good deal based on the pad count, based on what they're showing here, based on the like I just knew. And I was like, now I need to go out there and actually put it all together myself. So I'm going out on Wednesday and I'm just piecing. I got to go knock on doors. I got to I got my plumber meeting me out there to scope the lines because
Where is it?
it's outside of Little Rock. So
Oh, another Arkansas one.
it's in Arkansas.
Nice.
Um, so, and the key is it's close to my park, so I can use all of my guys. So that ramp up, I had like a 3 or 4 month ramp up on my park because I was hiring and going through. And honestly, I would even dare to say maybe 8 months as I filtered through the wrong people. But
Mm-hmm.
it took a while to really get the right handyman. We had some deferred maintenance. But now I could just like, because listen, I own 36 over there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and now I own 64 pads. And it's like,
That's
bro,
awesome, dude.
like you want my business now, like drive down the highway 30 fucking minutes and go do this for me. And that's what my plumber said. I was like, hey man, so blah blah blah. It's like, would you drive to here to do work? And he goes, not really. We try to stay away from there, but it just depends. And I go, well, here's the thing, bro. I'm buying another park, and I really need you to go look at the lines. He's like, okay, when are you gonna meet me? When are you gonna be out there? And I was like, next Wednesday. I was like, can you meet me out there to scope some lines? I need to know what these pipes are because the owners don't know. And so he's meeting me out there Wednesday at 2. He's going to drive over and scope some lines for me and figure it out to see if my estimate, like what I think is going on, is going on.
That's awesome, dude. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
That's I like that it's in Arkansas. It's kind of just like
it's
adding
there.
more.
But like this puts me over 100 pads. And one of the things I learned at Tim Bratz's event, at like his mastermind, is he would repeat, and even on like a lot of his podcasts, he's like, I always tell people to get to 100 units, get to 100 doors. And then he goes, you start to get credibility with the bigger money. He's like, get to 100 doors, show people you can manage 100 doors. He goes, and Tim Bratz would be like, I don't care if you got to buy a bunch of duplexes, quadruplexes, houses, piece it all together. He goes, you get to 100. So I use that as like my benchmark. I was like, I always told my wife, like, I got to get to 100 lots. Like, once I get to 100 lots and I can prove to people we can manage that much, then we could start, like, it really will ramp us up. So this puts me over 100.
That's awesome, man.
So
we're stoked for you. Would you say it's probably with that mindset, it's easier to go from, as far as like raising money and managing, it's easier to go from 100 doors to 1,000 than 0 to 100?
So like the work I put in is, I'm afraid, and in a good way, that all of a sudden all these offers I've made and deal, I traveled to a bunch of them, they're all going to start coming. And like, I think it's going to be a snowball effect.
Yeah.
It took me a year to get to this one, and I think it's going to snowball up. But like, it goes back to that mindset too. Like, remember I was telling you, I was like eating, breathing, sleeping, like just thinking about buying a park, and like, but now that I'm at 100, like I'm looking at a 64 one. But here's the thing. So I'm buying this thing, right? And I need, like, the whole park, I'm buying it for 555. And up until this park, I had a limitation of saying I can only do seller finance because I need to raise money. Well, the other park I was looking at in South Carolina, it was a 1.5 or whatever, and he wanted $500,000 down. Mentally, somehow I was like, well, 500K, I can raise that. It's a down payment on $1 million, $1.5 million park. I looked at another one that wanted 500 in Alabama. And again, my mental capacity was saying, that's not bad. That's 30% down. I can raise that from people. And so I specifically was not as keen on this park because there was no seller financing. And I remember laying in bed one night when my wife was like, right, like, we need another park. And I was thinking to myself, like, wait a second. This park is almost as much as what I was trying to raise there. Why can't I just, if I could raise that money for a down payment? And it took me, it sounds stupid, but it took me time to connect the dots that, like, bro, it's the same amount of fucking money. Because I tried seller finance on this, and I was pitching the realtor seller finance, and he's like, they don't want it. They need the money. I'm like, come on, man. Like, do you think they would do it if I put like 50% down? I'm like, bro, if I was willing to do it on these other parks, why wouldn't I do it on this one and just own it outright with no debt?
Yeah.
So that was a huge mindset thing for me. But to answer your question directly, yeah, I think now it makes it easier, because now if I could raise that, now why can't I? If I can manage, first I managed 36, now 64, raised $500,000, I raised 380, now $500,000. You know what I mean? Like, and I actually have to raise more than half. I have to raise like 3/4 or 800 or so. But if I could do that, why can't I do X, Y, Z?
Yeah, proof of concept and confidence and just belief.
But I think it goes back to those masterminds, though. Like, I don't think I would be, bro, I don't know. I wouldn't be there for sure.
Yeah, dude, I hear you. So when do you get back? If you leave Wednesday, come back Thursday? Just a day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday to Wednesday.
So listen, I've developed this strategy because Little Rock is an hour behind us. I leave here at 6. I'm there by 8:30. Like, even with laying over, I lose an hour, but I get there in the morning, so I'm landed and in my rental car by like 9:30 off the plane. You know what I mean? I could be at my park. I'm going to my park. Then by noon, I'm over at this park, walking it, knocking on doors, meeting the plumber at 2. My flight takes off at 6. I leave that park by 3:30, head back to the airport, and I'm home by midnight.
Wait, so you're not even Wednesday to Wednesday. It's literally just a day. You're there for a day?
Yeah, that's what I meant, Wednesday to Wednesday. Like, it's in like Wednesday.
For a week.
Oh, no, bro. Like, I'm going in the morning, coming back at midnight, because this is just, because I was telling Carlos, like, they got no pictures. They don't know a lot. They got no lot numbers. I don't know who's renting what or paying what. I got to go figure all this out. So I need to do that in order to raise the money. So I have to go figure all this out myself, and I need a few hours to do that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That'll be a fun situation to hear about. I've been hearing situations from other people, or from this one person who's buying something, but the things that they're learning, it makes it like such a great opportunity. And it's like you'd never figure that out. Like from the outside, you're like, I don't know about this. It looks kind of strange. When you start digging into it, you're like, man, there's so much opportunity, cost savings, ways to increase revenue. It's like those are the fun things when you are as experienced as we are at this kind of level, right? It's like these are the things that that can have massive impact. So
It's like
it'd be
chess,
fun
no
to hear about
checkers.
that.
It becomes
Yeah.
fun to play chess when you have to develop these strategies to try to increase it. And like the really cool thing is this is right next to a casino, so I think I could really play up the RV aspect of it.
Nice.
And an RV thing wasn't, and that was the other thing that took me a while to get over, is the fact that it had RVs, and I'm not in the RV business. And then again, I was like, well, let's just look at it like, would I buy it if it was no RVs and just 52 mobile pads? Like, would that interest me? And I said, if that's a yes, you know what I mean? Then why would 16 RV pads bother me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you like Airbnb and
that's,
RV?
bro, I'm already there. That's what me and Brittany were
Yeah.
talking about. I was like, listen, I could go buy some of those, like, they're 20K used like camper style RVs, park them, set them up, and then Airbnb them for people. Cause there's only like 3 hotels around the casino because they haven't put in, my land touches their land almost. There's a piece in between, but like they haven't built the rest of the hotel to the casino. It's just a casino.
Interesting.
Pad split an RV.
And you know what's funny is I also don't mind talking about this deal live because I'm using an agent as my go-between. So I know there is no finagling of somebody else trying to offer more money because now I'm gone through. That's one of the benefits of an on-market is like the seller's, Brad, good luck, dude. Good luck. Whereas on a wholesale deal, you're afraid to even mention anything because you're afraid someone's going to go behind you and snake the fucking deal and offer like 10K more. And it's like, it's some shit, bro.
Well, that's awesome.
Stuff
We're
though.
stoked for you.
Yeah. So
we're stoked for you, and the amount that you've just been like full immersion visualizing, it's bound to happen and more.
Yeah. But again, it goes back to being in the right groups and the right people, and that's kind of, I think all of that happened because of that. So, I mean, shit, even being a part of the Investor Fuse stuff, I would have never met Tyler, would have never got the first park, would have been interested in Little Rock, like all that type of stuff. It all goes full circle.
Oh yeah, it really does.
But John, you missed it. We dove deep, John, while you had internet issues or whatever. Like we were diving deep on Boardroom and Collective Genius and some of the different masterminds and the benefits of the masterminds. But I still stand by. We should bring some of these mastermind, like some of these people on. I'd really love to like hear from them, like what they're thinking, like what they see. Because Carlos brought up a good thing of like long-term value of like how long people have been in it. Like obviously they must see value. Like I wonder, like what is the average length some people stay in?
Like the LTV of different masterminds.
I think it differs. I like Collective Genius. I think has done something really interesting. They're the one that I know. Like I know people specifically that are like, I need to cut expenses over here,
just
but
to
I'm
be
not.
In this?
Well, they're like business, whatever the market shifts. Like I need to cut expenses, but I'm not cutting Collective Genius. It's expensive, right?
Bro,
and they're like, this
it's like a cult, bro.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like they've done something special with it.
I'm not saying it in a bad way, but like when I bring it up on my Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and like someone responds back to me, it's like they make me sound like, why aren't you in this? Like,
right.
They'd be like, Brandon, how come you're not in Collective Genius? Brandon, how come you're not considering Collective Genius? Brandon, I would have thought you would have been in Collective Genius. Brandon, why aren't you joining? And I'd be like, bro, like the assumptive statements you're making right now, like I don't know. I don't know the value. Like I've seen it, but like obviously they love it. Like
it is one of the longest running masterminds. I remember it back in my Podio before Investor Fuse days.
You want to know why? Because these motherfuckers probably only run that mastermind as a legitimate business, and they're probably not hustling.
Right. There you go.
They're not hustling it as a way to sell other things and do other things. And they're not /wholesaler /this guru this. They're just like, this is my business. And that's what we were talking about in the beginning of the episode. Now that I could see Collective Genius selling to someone, like I could feel like there's a residual value in what they've built because they've run it like a business from what I see online. Like it has that brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas wholesaling live, I don't see that getting passed down to a big company. Like, I gotta buy this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, their upsell at the event is their mastermind, like the
Yeah.
Alliance mastermind. And most of the people were there from Texas, like a lot of San Antonio people, but they had people that drove in from Houston and Dallas. And I can tell a little story to kind of put a bow on this episode. The experience that this one guy had, did I tell you guys this in the pre-show?
No,
I
what?
can't remember. The experience that this one guy must have went home and like told his friends and family about was must just be like pretty funny. So it's this guy's first real estate event. I think we meet him on the second day of the event, not including the last mastermind day. We meet him on the second day of the event. It's this dude that he's smart. He's done like a handful of deals. He's maybe done like 5, 6 wholesale deals, mainly texting with one of the text blasting tools. I can't remember. And he ended up getting a ticket like last minute, and he took a bus from like Houston. So it looked like a 3-4 hour bus, whatever it was, or train, whatever. He took some type of public transportation, and Brady ends up just seeing him in the or connecting with him. We were laughing about this because Brady had so many conversations just in the bathroom, like on the way out of the bathroom. We ended up calling that like a little mini mastermind center for him. He ends up talking to this guy, and it's right before lunch or as we're walking at lunch. So Brady introduces us to this guy. We're like, hey, what's going on, man? He has a general admission ticket. So we're walking to lunch, which general admission doesn't get. They gave us 4 VIP tickets that we didn't give out to anybody. I tried calling some people in San Antonio, didn't get a hold of them. We end up upgrading this guy's ticket. He's like, oh, no, you guys just have lunch, go by yourself. And we're like, no, we have tickets to give away. This is the last day. So we end up going to the front desk. We change his general admission. We swap it for a VIP. He not only gets a free lunch, there's like not as many people eating that day. So this guy has a private lunch sitting in between me and Brady, just talking about his whole business, how he could be using Carrot, Investor Fuse. It's just so funny that he upgraded him. Then we got him like a free dinner that night with his ticket as well. So it's just funny. This guy went from like general admission, probably like ducking off, to like free lunch, or free lunch, free dinner.
It pays to be in those VIP tickets at some of these
events,
for sure.
So it was just funny. And he was hesitant on going too. He was like hesitant on going to the event. He ended up going like last minute. So it's just funny how it played out. He ended up just having like a private lunch and free dinner.
It's VIP, like that's the way it is. That's the way. Mm-hmm. Like you got to buy
just to be a fly on the wall.
You got to
learn so much.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, my apologies on my issues in the middle of the episode, but felt like you guys are having a good combo. I have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, no, it was good. I'll fill you guys in more on the park. I'll know more about the park I'm buying next week. I'll fill you guys in as I head out there on Wednesday for the day, and we'll go from there. I wanted to go sooner, but fucking plane tickets, bro. Like, I swear to God, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, some of these prices, and then the plane that I get on. And like you look around at how beat up and used these planes are, like in some of these tickets, bro. And that's the thing, like it all depends on the day you're flying. And you're like, Monday's really fucking expensive. Wednesday's one of the cheaper days. But it's like, I'm like, fuck, for this much money? Like, how many people are going to fucking Little Rock on a Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. that you want to charge me like $800 fucking dollars to
$800? Are you serious?
The round trip, I think we spent like almost $700 some bucks. It's like,
that's ridiculous.
And that's why, and it was even more expensive earlier in the week. I wanted to knock this out on like fucking Monday and just get it done and then be back. But like, I mean, obviously, like in the grand scheme of things, it probably doesn't matter the extra 100 or 200. It's more principle because when you have to get on these planes and they pack you in like fucking sardines and they treat you like shit and they're like, no, buckle yourself up and like don't use this and sit upright. They don't even let you fucking lean back. And they're like, here's a bag of peanuts. Shit. They don't even give you peanuts anymore. They give you a dried up biscotti and they're like, and they call it a cookie and they're like, here's a cookie. And they don't give you soda bottles, nothing. Like, here's some warm fucking water for you.
They give like cracker and pretzels that have like seed oils. It's like seed oil dipped pretzels and cracker. It's like, I'm good.
This is what you get for your $800.
Yeah.
There you go, bro. I'm like, I need to go to the bathroom. Do you not see the light? It says don't fucking move.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to the bathroom. Sit down now. I'm like, oh shit. I fucking hate flying. I have been, bro, like I have my vision board over here with like my car and everything that I want in life, and me and my wife made it. I want to get a model of the Dassault Falcon, like the 7X or the 8X, and just like boom, and then like my little Pilatus. Like I just want it right there because I am so over flying regular commercial flights. But I follow this guy online. I'll have to forward him to you. He's a really high-end jet broker. He says minimum 150 hours flying a year before you should even consider buying a jet. And that doesn't even make it financially like responsible. It just makes it logistically responsible in your time.
150 hours. So how many trips does that break down to for Arkansas?
You got to figure I'm probably in the sky like 2-3 hours, so I would need to be flying to Arkansas
50 times?
Yeah, between 50 and 75 times. Well, that's one way, so divide that in half, so probably between 25 and 35 times.
Okay, that makes sense. You go every other week. You go twice a month, and that makes sense.
Yeah, well, not financially, but yeah.
For
But
that
like
equation that you gave,
for the equation, but I think it more goes to like again going into these different areas. Like if I had to keep going to different spots in the US and different airports every time, multiple legs
Right.
instead of one leg or something, like I think that's where he really, again, it's a general rule of thumb, 150 to 200 hours. But, you know, and that wouldn't even be my Dassault Falcon, bro. That would just be the Pilatus that I think we did didn't we do an episode on the fucking, we pulled it up and we were like.
Yeah. That's interesting to learn about that world.
It was. But anyway, I'll be on the flight. Just
all right. Well, we'll hear all about it on Friday. How much you hated your flight and how good of a deal your park is.
Yeah, damn straight. All right, guys, lock and load.
All right, guys, have a good one.